All right, everybody, thanks for tuning in. We've got coronal mass ejection watches in effect. Lots of stuff happening here at the Smash News Network, least busted name of news. As well as on the sun, despite low levels of activity, a series of coronal mass ejections. Some are Earth-directed. We'll get to it. This is ionized helium from the Solar Dynamics Observatory. Only one sunspot group, and it's been degrading. All of those grand solar minimum enthusiasts out there will be excited to know we may go down to 0 sunspots today if that sunspot continues to degrade. It's 2904, I believe, is the name of this one. I don't try to memorize sunspots. Never memorize something that you can look up, folks. That was the colorized magnetogram, by the way. Here's a composite view. This is ionized iron in 3 different ionic states here. 211, 193, and 171 angstroms. Again, some coronal mass ejections headed Earth's way. We'll get to it. The radio flux all the way down to 80 solar flux units. Here's the 1-year chart of the radio flux. It's the black line here. And you can see the sunspot number dropping off to 0 once again, although I would note that we are seeing higher highs and higher lows as cycle 25 progresses. Solar cycle 25, it began in November of 2019, and we've been covering it every day. So here's your space weather enthusiast dashboard, and we see no geomagnetic storms or anything like that forecasted. I'm not sure if NOAA is not seeing these coronal mass ejections. There was some missing data from the stereo A coronagraph here for a couple of days. Let's see if their Enlil prediction includes a CME strike. Not so much, not for Earth. So perhaps there's some issues with the modeling here. Perhaps I'm incorrect. It does occasionally occur. Next, looking at earthquakes over the past 90 days. That's a bar graph from volcanodiscovery.com. And here's the USGS list. Some American and some South American earthquakes happening here, as well as some in Alaska and around the Pacific Rim. No major quakes over the past 24. I think the largest earthquake was a 5.4. If there's anything we miss on the list, let us know in the comments. Here's a 5.3 south of Africa. That's at a bit of an odd spot there near the Antarctic and African plate boundaries. 5.0 at Japan. 5.5 in the mid-Indian Ridge was the largest quake. Here you go in the southern Indian Ocean there. A very desolate part of the world. Some California quakes as well, a deep quake in Bolivia. There we go. The largest of the past 24 was actually a 5.6 at Chile. There was also a deep quake in the Solomon Islands of a 5.4, 170.3 kilometers estimated depth there. Let's look at volcanoes next. Hopefully you're not getting Pearl Harbored by any volcanoes. We hope you know what volcanoes are erupting. Chances are if you live near a volcano, you're well aware of it. La Palma continues to erupt. Low-level volcanic ash emissions. We're wondering if it's still creating new real estate. Let us know in the comments if you've been following it, and follow us on Twitter for all kinds of updates you might not see otherwise. Twitter.com/SmashoMash. Fuego exploding 15,000-foot ash plume over Guatemala from Fuego. 20,000-foot ash plume from Sangay as it explodes in Ecuador. Revenador in that same country of Ecuador exploding flight level 150. It's a 15,000-foot ash plume from Revenador. Sabancaya unable to detect. Don't assume it's not erupting and decide to pole vault the caldera. That could be unhealthful. And Novatos de Chilean, we're unable to detect that. Same deal. Don't pole vault the caldera. Next, some magnetic data here. The GOES magnetometer showing up over the past 3 days as measured by the 16 and 17, the GOES 16 and 17. No major changes there. Let's take a look at some more magnetic data. And it looks like Earth may remain in a South Pole current sheet. Additional incentive to believe that sunspot 2904 is degrading. Here's a line of sight view of the heliospheric current sheet and its polarity. North Pole shown in green, South Pole shown in red. And here's the coronal hole line of sight plot. And there's a magnetic tug-of-war going on over here in the eastern limb. We're seeing both south and north pole coronal holes there as cycle 25 progresses. Here's a visual of it. 193 angstroms is a good wavelength from the SDO. To look at coronal holes, also 211 angstroms works well. Again, very low levels of solar activity at the moment. Likelihood of solar flares has gone down since yesterday. Likelihood of additional coronal mass ejections has gone up since yesterday. So that's one to grow on. Sunspot 2904 has degraded. It is still beta class, although smaller and weaker looking than yesterday. Which brings us to our mission. I believe coronal holes are involved in the forecasting of solar activity. And I believe I've explained the mechanisms behind the solar cycles. I'll be writing a paper on it soon. I know it's hotly awaited by our viewers. And I just wanted to scroll our mission here so that you can sort of see what it is that we're doing over at smashomash.com, smashomash.org, smashomash.com/smashteam. Our mission does include things like wellness, longevity, biology, and advancing the study of predictive phenomenon. You can read it yourself if you like at smashomash.com/forum/mission. You can find links at the homepage to that, as well as to our merch shop. Check out the merch shop. You can still save 25% through the day today with the promo code FINISHLINE. Save 25% with the promo code FINISHLINE. And thanks to everybody who's been picking up merch. It looks like the Universum Liberate product has moved up in terms of most popular. Apparently not a lot of people are interested in forgiving, remembering, and holding accountable. That's our least popular. And today's featured product is Universum Liberate. You can probably figure out what it means. Perhaps send your friends a gift for Christmas. Get them to join the Galactic Special Forces. If they're sick of the Space Force, and they're sick of the Earth Force for that matter, make sure you enter the promo code FINISHLINE to save 25% site-wide. Another thing you can find to help support our mission, if you are in support of our mission, is smashomash.com/smashteam, and we're putting up all kinds of public posts that don't even require login. They're just freely visible public posts. You can share the links. They'll show up on social media and so on. Here are some teasers from our latest posts. And some of these are only normally visible to silver and gold paid-up members. So perhaps become a member over at the Smash Team to get information nobody else gets to see. We've replaced Patreon with something vastly superior at smashomash.com/smashteam. Let's take a look at the flaring profile. And the flaring profile has fallen off a cliff here over the past 24. With the degradation of sunspot 2904, the only sunspot group, we're about to be back to 0 sunspots again if it continues to degrade. No spikes in the proton flux, as no major flares have sent relativistic particles Earth's way. And the real-time solar wind still showing an elevated... It is a coronal hole wind stream, really, folks, because it is, you can see here, it's over 500 kilometers per second. Current conditions are showing up as about 512 kilometers per second for the solar wind speed, which is a bit elevated there. Solar wind density about 8 protons per cubic centimeter. We didn't see a real good signal at the beginning of the coronal hole wind stream here. It's just kind of integrated into other activity. And that could be disrupted by all those coronal mass ejections and so on. Anyway, those are the current conditions. The rest of the data there fairly unremarkable. Geomagnetism is at calm conditions, at least for the last 9 hours. That's the KP index, a measurement of global geomagnetism. And here's a visualization of it by the Space Weather Modeling Framework for the past 4 hours. We would expect it to be rather homogeneous here over this period. It's a great time to take a sip of your coffee. Let us know what you're drinking in the comments. Next 4 hours of ground magnetic perturbations. We showed you Earth's magnetic moment from space. Here's Earth's magnetic moment from the ground. And again, we expect somewhat homogeneity when it comes to the last 4 hours here. Nothing too remarkable should be occurring there. If you want to know where the model is derived, you can click on Details on the Geospace Magnetosphere Movies page. That'll provide a link to the space weather modeling framework. Next, a diagram of the solar system. Let me just make something abundantly clear. Magnetism does not drive the orbits of planets or stars, satellites. They're not driven by magnetism. That's not how it works. All right, let's advance this 1 week. And there's where things will be on December 14th. We'll have a gibbous waxing at that point. And over Lehigh Valley, this is what's going on in the sky above my head. I like to use in-the-sky.org, and I like to face my star chart to the south. I'm currently facing the south, and so is my sofa. And part of the reason why we make these videos is to watch them on a larger screen. Yes, we share what I look at daily. That's part of the purpose of the YouTube channel. It took us months to figure out what to include in these daily space weather videos. We've got the Sun, Mercury, and Mars up there near the ecliptic. The path the sun will take across the sky, it'll be setting in Gemini today in the Lehigh Valley. Let's take a look at the coronal mass ejections. It's pretty interesting. We've got the data from stereo A now showing up. So we're going to show you stereo A here at Lagrange point 5 and the LASCO SOHO C3 from Lagrange point 1. And you're going to see a series of coronal mass ejections, and we've got a watch in place. So if you look at the left pane here, there is a likelihood of additional coronal mass ejections at the moment. The right pane is the LASCO C3. And it certainly looks to me like some of this ejecta is headed in Earth's direction. As we see ejecta on both sides of the, all around on the coronagraph there, so some of those appear to be somewhat Earth directed. And keep in mind, there's been a bunch of missing data here. Stereo A was still down yesterday, now it's back. There still are some big gaps in the data there, including a full day of a gap. Right here, you can see it goes from 12.5 at 10:20, 12.5 at 10:38, all the way to 12.6. So over a day of missing data there on stereo A. What can you do? Maybe it shut down. Maybe it was a CCD bakeout where the charge couple device shuts down to prevent itself being damaged. Certainly looks like some ejecta is headed in Earth's direction, in my opinion. Let us know in the comments if you have an opinion on that. Let's do another cosmology segment. Once again, it's integrated to the daily space weather video. Today's random number, as random as it may be, is 755, which is this X-ray source. I believe it's a cataclysmic binary, and it's in a dark part of space, so it's a weak X-ray source. There is the 30-day graph of its hard X-ray output. You can see there was a moment here back in around 2019 there, where there was a bit of an outburst where it went up and then back down. But it is, over the last 8 years at least, a pretty consistent X-ray source. 2E1756.8 plus 1451, another catchy name. Again, it's entry number 755 at the Neil Gehrels Swift Observatory. And we'll show you the space in that area at least. So here it is in infrared light. And you're not seeing any sort of a heat signature on the crosshairs for that. In visible, similarly dark in that region, you can see something going on there. Some sort of a cloud of something happening. Cataclysmic variable star, most likely. And here it is in ultraviolet. You won't see much of a signal there either. There is somewhat of a bright ultraviolet source nearby there. And if you look at the photometric points, it is not bright in much of the spectrum at all. And not a lot of study on it either, although you can find some articles there if you like at the CDS portal. Today's featured, quote, random and quote object 2E1756.8 plus 1451, the cataclysmic variable X-ray source. Now let's talk about gravitational waves. Do you think that they're actually measuring gravitational waves? A lot of people in physics don't believe that they're measuring gravitational waves, but that they're measuring something else. I'm not going to put any conjecture out in this video. However, these are 90 graphs of some of the gravitational wave predictions. So whatever they're measuring, they're probably measuring something. These readings from LIGO, which is Laser Interferometry Gravitational Observatory, and other similar laser interferometry, quote, gravitational, end quote, observatories, these readings do seem to coincide with cosmic events. However, is it science to get a measurement on the ground and then go search the sky for transient outputs? In any case, they're measuring something. And you can see an interesting similarity in all of these graphs. Let us know in the comments if you have a theory as to what it is they're measuring, or if it actually is gravitational waves. A lot of us don't believe that gravitational waves are a thing that can be measured. And I won't get into the dissent on that. Congratulations if you don't believe that this is a gravitational wave actually being detected. You're part of the counter elite. And there are indeed all kinds of issues when it comes to cosmology. It's part of our mission to help resolve those and determine and help sort of pave the way and blaze the trail to a unified theory of physics. You can look at this chart yourself if you like at apod.nasa.gov. It's the astronomy picture of the day, and it's a pretty serious topic when it comes to cosmology, whether or not gravitational waves are even a thing. That's our cosmology segment for the day. And make sure you check our playlists. There are over 200 other cosmology segments. Cosmology, a major I almost took up in college before I decided to become a pro athlete and get the heck out of academia, because in the mid-90s, it was uncool. I did not want to work for NASA for 20 years measuring Cepheid variables redshift. All right, so next we're going into the realm of electron flux and charging hazards. We don't see any charging hazards. Here's a one-year chart of the relativistic electrons. Here's a 3-day chart. And yeah, we're just about to go back into warning levels again today, perhaps. Although it is leveling off, as measured by the GOES 16 and 17. Just sort of moderate levels of electron flux here. And the NOAA forecast is for flat levels. I would tend to agree. Next, we're going to show you the total electron content forecast, which is the most likely scenario for GPS errors. And we actually do see a little chaos there. Some anomalies over places like Africa and the Indian Ocean. And if the area where you are is getting closer to the red, you're more likely to see GPS errors. So we actually see some here over the central part of the U.S. for a minute. GPS errors are most likely to occur around the equator at noontime. That's your total electron content forecast. Next, we're going to show you the ionosphere. We try not to conjecture about stuff that has no predictive value, like the ionosphere predicting earthquakes. If you've read the paper on that one, you'll go, oh, I see. There's no predictive value. But here's the F layer anyway. The vibrational frequency at around 300 kilometers of altitude. It's the F ionosphere layer, as reported by the Australian Government Bureau of Meteorology. We're also going to show you the anomalygram once this plays through. Congratulations on realizing our channel exists. We show the data daily as we're seeing more and more variables being tied together in a reasonable and believable fashion. So here's the anomalygram. This is showing you anomaly in megahertz from the 30-day median. Blue shows you high frequency and red shows you low frequency anomalies. And we're seeing more low frequency anomalies in the northern hemisphere here as winter approaches. Not really any surprise, as more direct sunlight is striking the southern hemisphere. There's the latest image from 1345 Universal Time. Pardon our lateness. That one's from 1400 for some reason. And let's do bonus features. Bonus feature number 1 is the ground-based solar observatory at Cerro Tololo, Chile. Again, sunspot 2904 is degrading. Check it out. There's a filament right here. A bunch of filaments. Again, coronal mass ejection watch in effect. It could turn to a warning at any moment. We might make another video about it if necessary. Next, the NASA GOES 16 SUVI imagery. If you need a screensaver with the sun all day, this is a good one. It auto-refreshes. Next, the latest intensitygram and colorized magnetograms. Sunspot 2804 continues to degrade. No other areas of significant magnetic organization. We could be down to 0 sunspots. So the sun's not really lurching like that. That's just some more missing data from the SDO. That's the 171 angstroms and colorized magnetogram viewed together. It's a composite. Once again, thanks for tuning in. Congratulations on realizing the channel exists. Press like, press subscribe, press share, visit our link, support the channel, and may that solar wind be at your back.